Assalamu alaikum and a very warm welcome to today's show of The Debate. I'm Tayyaba Nisar Khan and we're going to discuss a topic which just happened today in the morning where about 7 people died in an accident, not an accident rather, an attack, a militant attack in Bajor district today. And not just the 7 deaths, but also 9 people were injured as well. A very unfortunate incident because, of course, this was during the area where the transportation of the polio vaccinators took place as well. And the security personnel who were transferring them were targeted deliberately during this attack as well. We've seen since November 2022 that there has been a rise in the surge of attacks by the TTP as well. And there's not just TTP in the play, there are other factors as well who are in the play as well. But of course, after the unilateral ending of the ceasefire by the TTP in November 2022, it has increased as well. But of course, the other plays that I'm talking about as well are ISK, BLA and the others as well. This is one of the attacks that took place. We know that in the latest attack, there was in D.I. Khan where 22 personnel were martyred. And not just that, we saw that there was in the JUIF rally, that was also in Bajor, by the way, where 54 people were killed. We have seen in the past, there has been about 69% increase in the militant attacks and 74% increase in the violence in the area, which of course is targeted mostly in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa and Balochistan as well, with about 90% of the targets being in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa and Balochistan. Punjab and Sindh are bearing less brunt of it, but of course we do know how hard these areas are, especially after the takeover of the Taliban regime in Afghanistan, and of course the support. We say, many say that this is under the table, but it's not really under the table anymore. There's much support that's being provided to them, the TTP as well by the Afghan Taliban, and it has come to light as well. And of course these attacks have increased. We have with us guests regarding this topic as well. They're going to talk to us on these topics. We of course have our analyst Raja Faisal, who is of course here with us every single day talking about the analysis regarding every topic that we bring to you. But also we have other guests in the studio. We have been joined by Mr. Sarfraz Ahmed Rana, who is a security analyst. Thank you so much for joining us. Of course, online we have 2 guests who have also joined us. We have been joined by Brigadier retired Raashid Wali Janjua, who is the Director Research at IPRI. Thank you so much for joining us, Brigadier. And also, we have been joined by Siyar Ali Shah, who is a journalist in KP, and his focused work is in KP as well. Thank you so much for joining us, Brigadier, and Mr. Siyar Ali Shah as well. Of course, we have multiple guests from different backgrounds. We're going to be talking about different areas of where these attacks happened, why these attacks happened, and how we can curb these attacks as well. But first, my question is going to be directed towards the Brigadier, Mr. Retired Wali, Raashid Wali Janjua, who's the Director of Research at IPRI. Sir, we've of course seen this uptick in the violence in Pakistan with 69%, as I mentioned in my introduction as well, 69% increase in the violence and the militant attacks as well. And we've seen that nobody has taken a responsibility yet, but somebody has orchestrated these attacks, and this was directed towards the security personnel. Now, my question to you is that in 2024, we're moving on towards that. Number one, who orchestrated these attacks and what was their reason? And in 2024, secondly, do you see that this uptick is going to be reduced?
Thanks, Tayyaba. The answer to your question is that no simple answer, no single variable explains this spike. It's a multi-dimensional phenomena, and there are so many variables at play. I'll touch upon the first and the most important, which is the facilitation from across the Pak-Afghan border. We know that interim Afghan government, it has often stated that it's going to control TTP and not allow use of Afghan territory for attacks, but that has not come to pass. Neither have they displayed any capacity nor any desire to do so, probably because of their own ideological affinity, as well as a complete breakdown of normal uh, governance and economy in Afghanistan, and they are grappling with those issues more. And this issue to them is not very serious. Now, there are 8 training camps of TTP across the border. And the important ones amongst those are Dangoon and Sor Baravel. They are well known. And under the gaze and full, view of TTA, they are being actually facilitated by TTA elements of Afghan interim government and their intelligence agency GDI. So it's a well-known fact, and Pakistan has engaged so many times with the Afghan interim government to sensitize them. At the moment also, there's a private visit of JUI head Maulana Fazlur Rahman, who's going to who's trying his best to engage with them and trying to sensitize them of the need to rein in those terrorist elements. But whether it succeeds or not, it's a moot question, but still it's a ray of hope. The second important factor is all along the KP and Afghanistan border, the newly merged districts, they are in an administrative and police vacuum. Unfortunately, the Khyber Pakhtunkhwa police, which was supposed to be the first responder against terrorism, that capacity has not been built up over a period of time. So much so that their CTD capacity compared to Punjab is quite low, and they don't even have a proper functioning forensic lab, and the samples are sent to Punjab. So, and compared to Punjab, they are having 90% more attacks. Last year, there were 479 terrorist incidents against KP police compared to just 5 or 6 in Punjab. So there's absolutely no comparison in volume and intensity, but there is a world of difference between the capacities of two provinces. So this is a question which is which needs to be answered by the policymakers, that why this capacity deficit. The third important thing is that now there's an area which borders 3 provinces, Balochistan, KP, and Punjab. And there's a very famous area, Zarmilan. It's a very, very low developed area. There is an administrative vacuum. Police is not there. And there used to be a force called Frontier Constabulary. 27,000 was its strength. And it was kind of a buffer between army and police and the settled districts and NMDs. This area was being covered by them. Those have been pulled back, and now they are being used for normal policing and crowd control. And army has been overstretched. Now, ordinarily, there are areas which had to be covered by Frontier Constabulary. Those areas are now being covered by army. So it's a veritable witch's brew. Army is overstretched, capacity deficit is there, the facilitation from across the border is there. So in this environment are our law enforcement agencies operating, and there's a need that we should ramp up this counter-terrorism effort as a national priority by completely filling up this administrative vacuum and ramping up the police efficiency and police capacity. And only then we would be able to stem this rot. You mentioned today's attack on polio team, not today's attack, but a day before, in which 7 police officials, those have been martyred. Now that's an indication of how virulent this insurgency is. Now TTP, wherever it finds places and where it finds an opportunity, it attacks. And now, since the army has converted its posts into well-fortified areas, they are looking for soft targets. And those soft targets, wherever they present, they go for the civilians, they go for the police. So we need to enhance the capacity, and we need to enhance the intelligence cover also. And there is a hope that the parleys between JUI chief and Mullah Hibtullah Khunzada and his team across the border in Kabul, they yield some kind of dividends, and Afghan interim government sees the light of reason. to rein in TTP's activities. But so far, I'll keep my fingers crossed on their ability and on their, will to cooperate on this front.
Right, thank you so much for your deep analysis, Brigadier. Of course, we know that it's not just the lapse of security, but also an administrative lapse in the fact that there are less facilities, the lack of the capacity building that you've rightly mentioned as well. Let's go towards Siyar Ali Shah, who has joined us. He is in Islamabad, of course. He is from Khyber TV, which focuses on the Khyber Pakhtunkhwa incidents that are happening as well. We've seen that there has been a 3-day stop in the election activities until January 10th. And we've seen that the election activities, of course, were happening as well earlier on when I mentioned the JUIF incident, where 54 individuals were martyred as well by ISK over there. We've seen that that was also an election rally that was happening. Do you think that this has anything to do with the elections that are upcoming? And if not, then do you think this will have an impact on the upcoming elections?
Yeah, of course. The security issue is a major concern in KP, in particular in tribal area. The political parties that contest elections there, particularly JUI, they are expressing this concern that the security, the law and order situation is not conducive for fair elections. They have been raising this issue since the election has been announced. Yesterday attack and today's attack. Yesterday it was in Bajol, in which 7 police officials were martyred, and today 2 police officials were martyred in Banu. Both incidents which took place, they were of the same, in a way, the police official which were martyred in Bajol. They were deployed for polio with the polio teams. Similarly, the today's incident was also the police officials that were there deployed with the polio team that were targeted. Yesterday, attack was claimed by both, which is sort of confusing. Claimed by ISKP and TTP. Now that is also confusing at times, that certain terror outfits, they claim an attack and the other then come up with its own claims. So overall, the situation is very confusing. Now coming to election, it is a very serious issue for those who are contesting election. Now those particularly the likes of ANP and JUI, because they are on the hit list of TTP, and if we talk about Bajol, which is adjacent to Kunad area, that is a very very volatile region for ISKP, which operates there and which frequently attacks JUI. So it is sort of very difficult for a party like JUI to contest election, to go out and reach to people, to convey them, to vote for them. So it is very difficult for, we'll see later on as we enter the final days of election, how difficult or how it is going to be for a free and fair election, or for the campaigners campaign of certain political parties. So overall, the situation is not only bad for government official, line order officials. It is also bad for political parties, and the coming election will be very difficult in the situation that we are witnessing these days.
Right. Raja Faisal, of course, we know that this uptick has taken place, and like Siyar Ali Shah Sahab was saying, that there has been a claim by both ISK as well as TTP in this as well, and we do know that they're both at loggerheads with one another, and the situation is very different because they're both at a fight and they have an ideological difference as well. So what do you make out of this situation? And of course, is there a question that you need to ask from them as well?
No, first of all, Tayyaba, I just want to highlight this here that when it comes to ISIS, Khorasan, and obviously TTP, they are not at bad terms at all. If we talk about three of the provinces neighboring Pakistan, bordering Pakistan, I'm talking about Kunnar, Nangarhar, and Nuristan. All three provinces, they have a presence out there. TTP, be it BLA, be it BLF, they all get facilitation from ISKP, and at the same time we know about the IMU, ETIM, all of these outfits. Somewhere down the line in other countries they are banned. They are getting facilitation from obviously ISKP. At the same time, the very important aspect which needs to be highlighted more and more is that if we talk about Taliban, the Taliban regime, obviously, TTA, they have been fighting against ISIS in past as well, and of course they are facing a threat from them as well. So I always fail to understand that at the same time when they know that TTP is hand and glove with IS Khorasan, and at the same time TTP considers itself, few of the elements of TTP, they consider themselves as to be very close to TTA. This is where TTA fails to understand what is right for them and what is wrong for them. Obviously, now we are talking about this particular incident, and all of the incidents that took place in last year. I mean, last year, one of the bloodiest years we had in recent times, nearly 800 incidents that took place in Pakistan, in both provinces, Balochistan and of course KP as well. And the death toll is more than 1500. So what I'm trying to say is that it is at its full swing, and I mean, God forbids, but this year 2024 it is going to be even worse if a full stop is not put to them. And when I say full stop, I think Pakistan of course is ready to do anything to safeguard its own people. Of course, our security forces, they have been fighting day and night against these miscreants, against these terrorists who are being nurtured in three of the provinces of Afghanistan. They cross the border, they do their activities, they get facilitations from within Pakistan, from the people who are living here under guise. And of course, when we talk about them people, they are the very people who actually belong to Afghanistan themselves, and Afghan people, Afghan migrants who are here living illegally. That is why Pakistan came up with policy that all of the illegals who haven't got any IDs in Pakistan, they should be sent back to their own land, because they are the ones who actually keep on giving facilitations to these miscreants, these terrorists, and all of these incidents that take place in Pakistan. This particular incident, it represents two of the threats to polio drive, which Pakistan is working very hard on it, because we want to eradicate polio, and we want to be a polio-free country. And we know that the world has its eyes on Pakistan, that Pakistan is continuously making efforts to eradicate polio in Pakistan. Secondly, obviously we're talking about the elections. Elections are key, elections are pivotal when it comes to a democratic republic of Pakistan. I mean, Islamic democrat country Pakistan, it is not digestible to TTP, and at the same time ISIS Khorasan as well. By the way, if we talk about ISIS Khorasan has always considered Pakistan as a Darul Kufr. They call it a country that belongs to infidels. I mean, they consider us as infidel, and this is something to be pondered about for Taliban regime sitting in Kabul, they need to understand that they are, I mean, ISIS Khorasan is equally against them and us as well. So if this is the case, then there should be joint activities from both of the countries. Before somebody comes from elsewhere to, of course, initiate attacks on Afghanistan, on the land of Afghanistan, just to eradicate these ISIS Khorasan and TTPs, they must sit with Pakistan and initiate of that nature,
right, that
we can counter them. Why I say this? Because ISIS Khorasan is not only a threat for Pakistan, not only a threat for Afghanistan, but it's a backyard where ISIS fighters, they get trainings, they get trained here, and they obviously move to throughout the world and do their activities. So before somebody else gets prompted and of course comes back again to settle that score, we of course need to sit down together and we need to sort this mess out.
Right. Let's go to Sarfraz, Ahmed, Rana, Sahab now. Of course, Raja, Faisal, you've mentioned that ISK and TTP, they're both attacking, they're both having similar ideology in this sense. But of course, there are many conflicting reports where they say that they are at loggerheads and there are different organizations, terrorist outfits such as BLA, BLF that you've mentioned as well. They are getting their logistical support from somewhere. And Sarfraz, Ahmed, Rana, Sahab, I would like you to put some light, shed some light on this, that there have been reports that there are some sort of connection between TTP, ISK, BLA, BLF, and there are certain logistical support that one another, they're providing each other as well. Do you think that's true? Do you think these reports are true? If not, where are they getting their logistical supports to attack Pakistan from?
Of course, that's absolutely right. I mean, no terrorist organization or extremist organization cannot, operate in any part of the world, I mean, without having logistical support, financial support, and as well as moral support. So, of course, they are getting some moral, logistical, and financial support. So, of course, but, one of the important thing is that, I mean, we have to see a pattern, like, we had seen attack in Pakistan, we had seen attack in Iran, in Kerman, we had seen attack even in Afghanistan, within Afghanistan in Kabul, right? So one of the important thing which is very important for us to understand that is that Pakistan alone cannot put a sufficient efforts to eradicate this menace, this threat. Pakistan has to engage with all the regional countries and especially the neighboring countries of Afghanistan, especially China, Tehran, Turkey, and all the Central Asian states, And yes, Pakistan can activate, Pakistan can put its all, efforts through Shanghai Cooperation Organization, and Pakistan can raise concern and continuously raise concern, on that platform. Why? Because platform is there, and also there is a body name, RAT, anti-regional, terrorist organization, RAT. R capital, A capital, T capital. So Pakistan can utilize all those efforts, and Pakistan can motivate all those regional countries, including China. Why? Because China has the higher stakes in the peace and stability in Afghanistan. Why? Because BRI cannot succeed if there is no peace in Afghanistan. So my understanding is that Pakistan has to activate, Pakistan has to promote and project this threat to all the regional countries, including, as I mentioned, Tehran and Turkey and China. So that should be the priority of Pakistan, and Pakistan must securitize this terrorist threat, the threat of TTP and threat of other terrorist organizations which are freely operating in Afghanistan.
Right, securitizing the terrorist threat. Brigadier Raashid Wali Janjua Sahab, a very significant term. Of course, all the security analysts use it as well. There was a securitization of this terrorist threat back in 2014 when the APS attack happened as well. The National Action Plan was made as well. And this was reactive. Is there a way that we can be proactive before any significant event can take place in order to curb any such event in the future?
I think that securitization term does not apply here because the issue is already securitized, rather over-securitized. The question is the right resources, the right specification. We need to pull our stops and treat it as a whole of the nation approach. And there is a necessity at this point of time to understand that we cannot, fight this menace by mere blandishments or the statements of intent. A hardcore, capacity infusion is required. Like I mentioned, there's a border area where there is no livelihood opportunity, there's no development, there's no state imprint, there's no police imprint. So there it's a fertile recruiting ground for the terrorists, and you can hire the locals for a pittance. And we know the external forces which are helping and which are trying to impose a proxy warfare kind of environment on Pakistan. So the conduits are open, the fertile ground is there, the vacuum is there, the capacity deficit is there. It is those operational level details that we need to sort out and be very, very serious. Then there's a question of a complete abatement across the border, and we need to emphasize time and again with Afghan interim government to be serious and treat this as a serious issue, because they, instead of offering us homilies and castigating us for treating their refugees harshly, they should understand that Pakistan just desires that Afghanistan should act like an independent and sovereign country, and expect Pakistan to act like an independent and sovereign countries. And those sovereign countries have a proper passport or visa regime. It just doesn't happen that any governor or a power broker in Afghanistan issues a tazkara, like informal document, and people start pouring in. As of now, there is of protest and requests for the patients flow that used to come to Pakistan, because that was one of the logistic supports that Pakistan provided to the people of Afghanistan. Now they are facing problems because nobody issues them visas. That is for Afghan interim government to solve, because if we open the floodgates, we don't exercise control over our borders, then in the garb of patient handlers and patient attendants, we have found the suicide bombers coming in. The law enforcement agencies have held those, and they are concrete, tangible evidences. So on all these fronts, we need to be serious and make it a success, because this counter-terrorism approach has to be multidimensional. It includes aggressive diplomacy. And the regional countries were mentioned, well, by all means, because China and Iran, they already know the virulence of ETIM and TTP, and they have instituted measures in their own territory. Over 1 million Afghan refugees have been sent back from Iran, and Iran doesn't allow any Afghan to work in Iran without work visas, and there is no protest there. So as independent and sovereign countries, we have to take control of our borders. We have to cleanse our areas of the terrorist presence ourselves, and we have to do a very aggressive diplomacy. And even countries like United States, they say that United States is the neighbor of every country, regardless of the contiguous borders. So we have to cooperate with the United States also on counterterrorism front, because if it comes to a stage where Afghanistan further destabilizes, perhaps some kind of cooperation would have to be, thought at the international level. So all these multi-dimensional aspects have to be factored in while treating this phenomena of terrorism, and it is a subset, in fact, of the larger Pak-Afghanistan relations, and those relations are being impacted by this subset into the bigger set.
Right.
Brigadier Janjua, you have rightly pointed out that, of course, we have been ally of America when it comes to counter-terrorism, and of course we always seek a sort of, that alliance remain in this region. And we know at the same time that, of course, we have the footprint so far. Eastern neighbor India, their premier intelligence agency, RAW, it has been very active in Afghanistan for sole reason, and that reason was to engage Pakistan on the Western Front as well, so that Pakistan can shift its focus from the eastern border to the western border. And we know that we have the evidences as well in shape of people like Kulbhushan Jadhav. We have the evidences, and the world has been getting dossiers from us in past as well. Do you think that we need to reiterate them facts once more, while the world is actually eyeing upon India as a country that is exporting terrorism in shape of whatever they have been doing in New York, whatever they have been doing in Canada, whatever they have been planning to do in London as well? So do you think that we have to reiterate them facts once more regarding Pakistan getting hit from the western border? And of course, all of these outfits, somehow they have been maintaining good relations with the Indian RAW. As we know that when Colombo church attack took place, I mean the footprints, they were obviously going to India as well, to the RAW. So do we need to reiterate them facts once more, sir?
We must understand that India is still following Machiavellian strategy of treating the neighbor harshly and the neighbor's neighbor to be befriended against that neighbor. And RAW obviously would capitalize on any opportunity to harm Pakistan. And already there are some peace overtures. I believe that now the mission has also been opened in Kabul. And they will definitely pull all stops to start those activities that they used to do during Ashraf Ghani's regime. And we should be mindful, and we should be wary. And that also is a part of our counter-terrorism strategy, to take note of all the elements that support terrorists like TTP. And RAW obviously is on the radar of our security agencies also, and that threat can never be discounted.
Right, not just Pakistan security agencies, but also US and Canadian security agencies as well, after what happened with the Indian involvement in the killing of Hardeep Singh Nijjar as well. India is coming to the light on the international fora, and we're very happy that finally the truth is being exposed. But of course, there has been a vacuum that has been left by the United States as well after they went and they left Afghanistan. And we saw that many weapons, advanced weapons that were left by the US were used against Pakistani territory by these insurgent groups as well. But Brigadier Janjua Sahab, he mentioned something very significant, and that was the multi-dimensional approach that we need to take. Siyar Ali Shah Sahab, I'm going to go to you towards this as well. We know that security, economics and social uplift, they go hand in hand. And of course, multi-dimensional support approach and the operational issues are very significant as well. Do you think that the fact that these security lapses have been taking place, is there an involvement of the economic issues or the economic woes in these areas as well? And of course, the lack of capacity building, like Brigadier Sahab had already mentioned?
Yeah, exactly. If you go to the places like Waziristan and Tang and other parts of tribal areas, if you go there and see the development, they are still like the people they are living in a Stone Age age. So the development issue is very, it is a very significant issue. It is attached to the security issues. And if we see the merger of FATA, FATA with KP, there were some promises made during that time that the region, the tribal areas will be brought at far with other settled areas, but in the preceding years that we, particularly the past 4 to 5 years, nothing had happened, and no development, literally no development work took place there. So it is
Don't you
connected
think,
to.
Siyar Sahab, don't you think that these hindrances are just because of the security issues which are being faced by that region? And of course, will is already there, and of course, the work is slower, but it is taking place.
Yeah, but it is the state responsibility. If there may be some people, local people involved in the some subversive activities, but you cannot, label all the inhabitants, the citizen, the people of tribal area. They need development, they need schools, they need education, they need businesses, they need other things, so they can educate themselves, they can educate their children, they can educate, they can change their lifestyle. So it is important in many ways. If the security situation improves, the development will, happen a bit faster, and developments will come there. Developmental projects will come there, will go there, and people will starting investing there. But right now, the investment, if we even after the merger of KP, the FATA with KP, no investment had been made on the police there. Simply, a ragtag force has been developed into a police force, and we see them they have no resources to fight the terrorists who has very sophisticated weapons. So issues are there. A lot of work needs to be
Right.
done there.
Capacity
Political
building.
governments, capacity building needs to be done. And if we see the provincial government, the previous provincial government, and the federal government, political government, if we talk about them, they when it comes to FATA tribal area in these areas, they don't take as much interest, and that is one reason the people there are, alienated, and they turn to other ways, other sources, and other sources of earning. If that is even terrorism and taking up arms, and there are other issues.
Right, of
So
course, the
the
capacity
development
building
issue
is
is
very
very much
significant.
connected to the.
Right, thank you for your opinion, Siyar Ali Shah. So, of course, capacity building is very significant. State responsibility is there as well. But despite the fact that there are less resources and less funds, the military and the state are trying to work together in order to curb this activity and in order to ensure that the capacity building is being developed as well. We've seen many model towns being developed as well by the military and the state as well. True. And that is going to hopefully create this more, not just capacity, but also create the social uplift that would avoid such situations in the future as well, and give the power to the people over there as well. But of course, Sarfraz Ahmed Rana Saab, we do know that the earlier FATA and now merged tribal districts, they were a buffer zone earlier between Pakistan and Afghanistan as well. When at the time when there was a porous border. Now, of course, the fencing has been taking place about 80%, but still there are loopholes as well. How do you think we can curb this threat coming from our western border? How can we ensure the eastern border, India, stops conniving with the western border and trying to create insurgency in Pakistan as well? What is the way forward for you?
It's definitely an open secret. I mean, as Brigadier Janjua was talking about, and Raja Faisal was also talking about the Indian approach. So an Indian approach is very conspicuous towards Pakistan. Of course, the Dowell Doctrine is very there. And Dowell Doctrine is very clear about that, they want basically to sandwich Pakistan between the two borders, eastern border and western border. That is the policy of engagement. And there is very well renowned and very well popular, very notorious policy which is presented by Ajit Doval, who is the National Security Advisor of India currently. He basically talked about offensive defense, that they basically want to make Pakistan bleed. By using Afghan soil, right, and by supporting those, organizations right there in Afghanistan.
Right.
As far as Pakistan's approach is concerned, as Brigadier Janjua was talking about the Machiavellian approach, of course, it's not a Machiavellian approach. It is basically a Quotidian doctrine, but in which that says that my neighbor's neighbor is my enemy, right? So, as far as Pakistan approach is concerned, of course, Pakistan has to focus definitely on the social mobility of that region. Why? Because there are certain concrete reports coming from the tribal part of Pakistan that they are basically drawing all their strength, by recruiting and placing suicide bombers in that part of tribal part of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, right? So Pakistan definitely has to allocate some more funds. Of course, Pakistan has some limits. Why? Because there is some economic crisis over there. So, but still, Pakistan has to expedite the process of mainstreaming that region. By engaging the youth, especially by engaging youth, I mean that is very important thing. So of course, and by also launching some intelligence-based operation over there in that part of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. So of course, as Brigadier Janjua was talking about, the multidimensional approach is basically required and needed to curb that, but it is definitely easier said than done.
Right. So Sarfraz, do you believe more in an inward approach or an outward approach to curb this threat?
Of course, I mean, it is basically going to be a combination of inward and outward approach. Yeah.
Right. Raja Faisal, let's go towards you. Of course, there was a talk about the mandala concept of Kautilya Chanakya as well, where the enemy of the enemy is your friend, and your neighbors are basically your enemies. So India is surrounded by Pakistan, by China, by Bangladesh, by Maldives, for instance, the recent surge in the absolute talks that are happening between Maldives and India as well, which is very interesting as well, it's happening. But Sri Lanka, all of these countries are facing issues from India. Currently, we've seen that Canada and US highlighted this. However, do you think this is enough for India to be curbed and to stop exporting the terrorism that it's exporting, not just in Pakistan, but in the other countries as well?
Tayyaba, when we talk about India, of course, in recent times, India has been portraying itself, at least to the Western world. It wants to show that it is hegemon when it comes to the region.
Right.
It wants to create that hegemony. Of course, we know that it went towards Myanmar and they did surgical strike there. Nothing happened from the opposite side. When they went towards the Bangladesh, nothing happened towards them from the Bengali side. But when they went towards, obviously, Nepal, there were clashes with them, but of course they know how to control them. But when they came towards Pakistan, finally, of course they got gobsmacked from Pakistan back in February 2019. So now they won't dare come in towards here, because that was when Pakistan put a full stop on their hegemony, because we told them that you might try to portray as an SHO of this region, but we won't accept that. We will show you your mirror, so that you can see your face in it, and you don't dare do that again once more. So when it comes to Afghanistan, the mightiest problem which I see and which I feel, that the NDS, the old NDS, which always used to support and get trained from RAW, and of course against Pakistan all the time, people like Amrullah Saleh, they have the ground force, they have the ground people who have been working for them. And we should not be forgetting one fact, that there is a known fact that right after Taliban regime took over Kabul, after that we know that from $280 to $400 per month it was offered to people to join ISIS Khorasan. Who was paying that amount? And we know, and it is a recorded fact, and it was reported by Anadolu, which is very well-renowned news agency of the world, and they reported it, that people are being paid to join that. NDS people, they joined them, and after joining them, do you expect anything in favor of Pakistan? Of course they will be working against Pakistan, and of course they are still doing it. This is a menace, and we need to, of course, counter it. And we know that which is the country that is actually paying all of these amounts. Don't forget, when Taliban took over, majority of the NDS people, majority of the previous regime people, I mean, of course they went to different countries, people like Amrullah Saleh and everyone, but there was a large number that actually is still residing in New Delhi, and they have the ground support based in Afghanistan, and that support is of course against Pakistan. And of course we are seeing whatever is happening in Pakistan. It has a lot to do with India, it has a lot to do with NDS, and it has a lot to do with all these three provinces where they are nurturing all of these miscreants against Pakistan.
Right, thank you so much for your analysis, Raja Faisal. Thank you so much for your analysis, Brigadier Janjua Sahab, Sarfraz Ahmed Rana, and Siyar Shah. Thank you for joining us online and in person as well. Of course, we do know that the outward approach, the fact that the involvement of different countries in Pakistan's security landscape is happening. It is very real as well. But there's also one fact that we need to look at the inward approach, and that is to focus on the people of Pakistan, focus on the social uplift of the Pakistan, social uplift as well as the capacity building and the indigenous communities capacity building as well, the engagement of the indigenous communities, and of course the youth, as Mr. Sarfraz had also mentioned. That's very, very significant because 70% of the Pakistani population is youth, and the people in KP and Balochistan, they would want to know how to curb the menace of terrorism themselves as well, not just through security, but also through the social and economic uplift in the society as well. We've seen a record 6-year high according to the report by CSSR. And this report basically highlights the surge in violence that's happening as well. The 6-year violence high, it has to stop. And 2024 is the year where we have to make it stop as well. Thank you so much for joining us. This was Tayyaba Nisar Khan with The Debate.